Welcome to the final days. Today is February 25th, 2020. Today we will be seeing flying projectors that hide eclipses. We will also be seeing how invisible but how unbelievably opaque the atmospheric chemicals are that are spread throughout our skies globally. We will also see several celestial objects being lit up behind the sun, or what appears to be the sun. All of the images you are about to see came from the Alaskan FAA weather cameras, most of them yesterday. These images are unedited except where obvious contrast is used to help see things better. The purpose of this channel is to show viewers that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible, and also to explain how to prepare for what's coming. In our first video, the east-facing camera at Good News Bay, Alaska, shows the typical method of spraying atmospheric chemicals throughout the skies and all around the world. As you can see, the sky is already so saturated with chemicals that the plume coming from the jet leaves a stark shadow above it. As we play through this footage, you can see how these chemicals are made to cover the entire sky, as if a curtain were being pulled across it. An internet search for the chemicals used in camouflaging the sky reveals that it is mostly made of nearly microscopic metallic particles, mainly aluminum, barium, and strontium, but lots of other things too. These particles eventually fall down to Earth and saturate the ground and all water sources, providing a toxic environment for every living thing on Earth. The southeast-facing camera in Good News Bay shows the same thing. The black dot in the center of the light source that you're looking at is the equipment that produces the circular glare we are seeing. It is visible when the angle of the camera is lined up with the angle of the black dot equipment. This black dot casts a reflection upon water surfaces, proving that it's an actual piece of equipment and not a camera or lighting issue. The atmospheric chemicals make the sky look blue, but they are so thick that they can completely block the sunlight. And as you can see in this footage from the south-facing weather camera located in Chitina, Alaska, it causes the sky to look really odd. You can see that the blue part is actually opaque and it's blocking the sunlight in some of these images. These atmospheric chemicals are effective at hiding large celestial objects in the sky. For several reasons, we know this cannot be a lens flare. One obvious reason is that it is reacting to the light source. Notice how the light source actually partially illuminates this celestial object. It can't be a lens flare. A lens flare can never react to the object causing the lens flare. Let's quickly review 4 facts about lens flares. Lens flares of the sun don't rotate. Lens flares of the sun don't contain craters and heavily textured surfaces. Lens flares of the sun cannot go behind clouds or other structures in a video or picture. Lens flares of the sun can never react to sunlight in a picture or video, such as we are seeing here in this footage. Thus, this object passes the lens flare test. Something very important to note here is that the manufactured light passes in front of this object as it lights up what's behind it. It lights up the celestial object behind. Objects like this could never be viewed behind the real sun without high-tech filters and telescopes. In this footage from Black Rapids, Alaska, the sun is about to be eclipsed by a cloaked celestial object, which becomes visible with the contrast added here. We see the craft that is always present when there are objects to be hidden. We also see the celestial object itself. And on the very right edge of the screen, we see the pink reflection of the craft that is always present during an eclipse or a near eclipse. Whenever the real sun is being eclipsed, the glare produced by the black dot equipment is easily blocked out by objects in front of it. But this only happens when the sun is not visible. So apparently the sun is being blocked here, not by the object we just saw in the contrast, but by something else. There are now many, many of these foreign objects in our sky, according to astrophysicist Dr. Albers. Most of these objects aren't visible because of the thick atmospheric chemicals used and other technology in place for hiding the foreign planetary system that has now intermingled with our solar system. We know this one cannot be a lens flare because these contrasted images show that it is highly textured and has a fast rotation. Lens flares of the sun cannot be seen rotating because our sun only rotates once every 27 Earth days. The many craters on this celestial object make its rotation obvious. The Scammon Bay camera shows the sun shrinking down to a small circle when a thin pipe blocks the camera's view of the center of the manufactured light source. The fact that we are still seeing a small circular glare must mean that the real sun isn't being completely blocked right now. Possibly just the atmospheric particulate might be doing it. I'm not quite certain. In a couple of these frames, we see the bell-shaped projector hiding a very large celestial object that is difficult to see even with contrast applied to it. In just a minute, we'll be seeing more of this projector and much better images of what it's hiding. Here is what the light source looks like when no eclipses are happening and no celestial objects are being hidden. The sky is blue instead of gray or black. The metal pipe in the video doesn't affect the size of the light source at all. Of course, the manufactured light is still there, very close to the Earth, of course, but lined up with the sun. The sun's in back of it, so that we can't see it. And as you can see, there is no craft, no odd-shaped pink reflections, nothing unusual. Just a blue sky and sun. One telltale sign, though, that the manufactured light is still out there is the small wraparound effect it has with foreground objects that block it. You can see this very same effect by holding your finger up in front of the sun, but don't do this without protective eyewear, such as a welder's mask or something similar to that. You can view this safely on your camera's or your phone's camera screen also. Just don't use a single lens reflex camera because it could damage the lens. When the sun is being eclipsed and the only light source in the sky is the manufactured light, it completely disappears behind small objects, such as this tiny street lamp. Our real sun could never disappear behind a street lamp or a thin flagpole. Or even a tiny bird feeder post. If the cloud cover is a particular thickness, the sunlight generator can actually be seen as a small dot, the generator, at sunrise. This generator shows up as a black dot when the light source is up in the sky and the camera angle is just right. The southwest-facing camera in Valdez, Alaska, shows the black dot center of the light source. Now this means we can see half the diameter of the light source. Look at this. The reason this is important is to show how adjustable the size of the glare is that this black dot equipment produces. In the next frame, the sky has dramatically darkened as the light source enlarges and illuminates a very large object that soon will be passed over by the manufactured light. The manufactured light is going to cross over this object. And in the third frame, the circular glare grows even larger in an attempt to hide this enormous celestial object behind it. Untold trillions have been spent on the technology to hide this inbound planetary system from the unknowing masses. The reason for all the deception is because the enemies of Christ do not want you to know how close to the end we are, nor do they want you to turn your life over to Jesus while you still have time. Information is at the end of this video instructing you on how to accept Christ into your life. I find it just heart-wrenching to think that this amount of money has been spent on deception when it could have been used to cure diseases, feed the starving, educate poor countries, help the impoverished, and clean up the earth's air and water. Here's the same object, but from a different camera, located in Yakutat, Alaska. Notice how the celestial object actually reacts to the light source as it comes close. This tells us it cannot be a lens flare. Lens flares can never react to the object causing the lens flare. Lens flares can never become partially illuminated by the object causing that lens flare. The south-facing camera in Northway, Alaska starts out with the bell-shaped projector approaching from the far right edge of the screen. I'll play the video through exactly as it came off the camera, and then I'll apply some contrast and arrows so that we can view it better. The atmospheric chemicals are very thick, and they have faded this enormous celestial object so that it's difficult to see, even with contrast. Here is a better view of that same object from yesterday's images at Yukon River Bridge in Alaska. I'll play it as it came off the camera, and then we'll look at it again with some contrast added to it. The contrast images show an extremely rocky, crater-pocked celestial object with an obvious rotation. The rotation looks pretty fast in these images. In a future video, I'll do a size comparison with this object from a previous video. It does look considerably larger than it did back in June of 2019 when I showed this same celestial object from this same camera. Last time I checked, it was getting larger, closer, at a rate of about 1.4% per week. Nowadays, it's difficult to obtain these images from Yukon River Bridge because it is kept under heavy cloud cover. At Potato Point, Alaska, we see the reflection of the bell-shaped projector again. This is just a reflection, not the actual piece of equipment. In this footage, the projector has successfully hidden the celestial object from view. We can't see it at all. Here is a reflection of the bell-shaped projector again at Isabel Pass, Alaska. It has also effectively hidden the celestial object in most of these images. Only in one image is it easy to see with contrast added, but in the rest of these images, you really can't see it. In the next video, I'll have another update on the mid-May cosmic event. I'll wait until after this Thursday to see if Mike from around the world has any more information about the mid-May cosmic event. For anyone who is new, the mid-May event is when Earth will be passing close by one of the objects in the planetary system we've been viewing in these images. It will cause an increase in earthquakes and volcanic activity. Several months ago, Homeland Security warned every citizen to have a 6-month supply of food and water on hand. This week I went to the store to do a bit more stocking up on supplies, and I went to a very large chain store, supercenter, that begins with a W, and I was really surprised to see empty shelves here and there. And normally they keep the store well stocked, but they were out of a number of items. This concerned me considering what's been going on in the world. So stock up while you can. In addition to being physically prepared with backup supplies of food and water, we must also be spiritually prepared for what lies ahead. All of the objects just shown are signs that we are living in the very last days. Jesus describes the last days in Luke chapter 21, verse 25, when he says that we will see signs in the sky when the end is near. As you can see, there isn't a whole lot of time left to turn your life over to Jesus. There will come a day when it's too late to make that decision. So please make your decision now to accept Jesus into your heart. These next few screens will tell you how to accept Christ into your life. Simply pause the screens if you need more time to read the text.